Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to a brand new video, and today we are going to be creating Graham Potter's 3-5-2 that he uses at Brighton. Now, before you say, I do know he can also use a 3-4-3, a 3-4-2-1, but today we're going to be purely focusing on the 3-5-2 layout. If you do enjoy the tactics, please do leave a comment as well of what your favourite tactic of mine is. Leave a like on the video, and please do subscribe to the channel. But let's get into the video. So, we tested it with 3 teams. The first team we tested it with is going to be with West Bromwich Albion. Obviously, a team that he did at one point actually play for. Now, this was a very successful test in my opinion. The cups were quite disappointing, but at the end of the day, I wasn't expecting to do too well. And the teams he went out against are elite teams compared to where we are as a club. No disrespect to West Brom. Nevertheless, though, in the actual championship, as I said, we managed to win, scored 180 goals, ranking the best, only conceding 28 as well, ranking us the best in that category as well. And in terms of goal scorers, we actually had Carl Grant scoring 60 goals. Now, I know, obviously, we do, that you play a few more games in the division than what you would in the Premier League season, but still, 60 goals is a very, very good stat, to be honest with you. Going into the squad then, we have got, as we can see, 60 goals from Grant, Dyke with 18, we've got Swift with 10, 8 and 4 in terms of assists. We've got 30 from Swift, we've got 14 for Townsend, Dyke with 10, 10 with Furlong, 8 with Yokolsu, but I hope that's how you say that. But what I want to say about this tactic right off the bat, before we even get into it, is this isn't an all-and-out goal-scoring tactic, and it's not really an all-and-out defending tactic. It's quite a weird way to try and describe this. This is pretty much just a well-balanced tactic, which does a little bit of both. You will see quite a few games where it is going to be 1-goal wins, possibly 2-goal wins. But as I said, this guy had a bit of a freak season, to be honest with you. Scoring 60 goals, and in this system you'll have one of the attacking players that does score more than the rest, because one of them has a little bit more of, doesn't really have any chains attached and no real responsibility. He goes out and gets the goals, and that's all that he does. But what I'm trying to say is, unlike some tactics where it is all about going out there and scoring 4 or 5 goals a game, this isn't. It's a very well balanced tactic, and it's a perfect tactic to use, like with Brighton, with sort of like a mid-table side, because it's not all too out there, so you're not going to be vulnerable at the back, but it's also not too defensive to the point where you won't score. But I will be honest, pretty much a lot of these games you are going to be winning by possibly 1 goal, 2 goals, so you have got a lot of defending to do when needed as well. But in terms of the data hub then, so team attacking, we actually managed to score 2.3 goals a game, so over 2 goals a game, which is very good for this system and with this team as well. And that is pretty much what I wanted. One thing again, which is Graham Potter is very well known for, not as much as what he should be, to be honest, but he does play a real good style of football. It's not long ball at all. 91% pass completion. The passing is going to be on shorter in this occasion because, like I said, the build-up play they have, if you watch some of the Brighton goals, even against the big teams, like they've done a job on United. I mean, anyone can do a job on United, but, even against the big teams, they play really, really good football. So it's none of this long ball style, which you see with a lot of these managers that are with mid-table sides. In terms of defending, under a goal a game conceded, so you're scoring over 2, you concede in less than 1. It's a perfect recipe, and that is why we did win the division. And again, clearances per game actually sitting quite high at 43. The win ratio again 83% if you want to round up. So a lot of the tackles that we do put in are clean challenges to win the ball back, regain the ball, then we can play our style to build up the pitch. But no, like I said, this tactic, it was a challenge to make, but 3 at the back tactics are always a challenge to make, because you have to find that balance of scoring goals, but also not then leaving yourself vulnerable at the back. And it's like, he's done it, he's mastered it in real life. He's probably one of the best managers with, I know there's a few managers now that play it 3 at the back. You think of your Tuchels, your Contes and things like that, but they've got really, really good sides in terms of players compared to Brighton. So the fact he's able to pull it off, a Brighton team, which does have some good players, but not like world-class players, is very, very impressive. But let's hop over to the second save, which is going to be with Brighton. So this is going to be what we done with Brighton, and do you know what? I am really impressed with this. Like I said, Brighton had a decent season last year. I think they finished 10th, was it? I'm not entirely sure. I know they finished quite well, because I was quite shocked by how well they done, to be fair. But in this save, we actually managed to push Brighton all the way up into 5th position. So getting them European football, which, is very, very good considering we made no signings, and obviously, you know, I haven't got Basuma like they obviously because they sold him in real life. We play on an up-to-date database, so we haven't got him either. So I mean, we lost one of the star players there. Now, in this division, I will point out, and I'll say it again, you can probably see by here, by the 9th worst for goals scored and conceded. When I first started this Premier League season, I was conceding a lot of goals. So what I done is, if you are going to use this in the Premier League, this tactic, I would honestly recommend changing the mentality from positive to balance, because that really helped balance the season out for me. And that's where we started to get some of these results. Now, we got a lot of 1-0, possibly 2-1 wins. The games were quite close, as you do see with Brighton, but still a fantastic place in the Premier League at the end of the day. The Cups, again, I'm not too fussed about because we haven't really got the squad to be... Well, first off, we didn't expect to even get European football, but we managed to do that quite convincingly as well. A few points behind Champions League, but that's why the goal difference is a little bit weird, because we weren't scoring loads of goals, and when we were, they would always be like 2-1s, couple of 1-0s. We actually had like 4 1-0 wins on the bounce, but, you know, this is the stuff where I say when you download tactics, you do have to tweak a little bit for yourself in the game. So if you're 1-0 up in a game and you think you're getting dominated, it's your call then. Do you go a bit more defensive to seal it out, or do you go more attacker to try and sort of just kill the game? So what I will say is, if you do think that you're conceding too many goals, then do just drop it from positive to balanced. I've done that and it helped out a lot. It's sort of just, it doesn't make you too defensive, but you don't go too committed either. So in my opinion, if you're playing in like, well, for example, the Championship like I done, you can play positive because there's quite a few teams in there where they haven't got the best side. So you can go out, you can score loads of goals. But if you are finding yourself conceding loads and loads right off the rip, because I was conceding early goals, sort of in the first 30, 40 minutes, change it from positive to balance to see if it does, you know, does help out. But overall, very happy with how the team played in this. Like I said, I would say this one, I'm going to predict this before we even go into it, but I'm pretty sure this one is going to be roughly about a goal conceded, roughly a goal scored, because it was pretty much tit for tat. A lot of the games looked like they could go either way. A lot of them we did come out on top, obviously, as you can tell by the league placement, but no, they were quite close games. But let's have a little look at the squad then. So in terms of goals then, bit more quiet compared to the 60 goals, but we've still got Trossard with 30, 10 for Welbeck, McAllister with 10 as well. In terms of assists, we've got 15 for Lamptey, Solly March with 10, 7 for Welbeck, McAllister with 5, Trossard with 4. So like I said, I can already tell just from these stats, and I'm pretty sure you guys can tell. We'll have a look anyway, but team attacking, we are going to be seeing, okay, over a goal a game, getting on for 1.5 goals a game. Pass completion is still very high, which is what I want to be seeing, because, you know, it just proves that you can maintain that standard of passing, even though you're in one of the hardest division in the world. And in terms of defending, 1.2, so we are actually scoring more than what we are conceding, if you are purely going off this stat here. Again, the tackle win ratio quite high, a lot of clearances per game as well. But like I said, the Premier League, obviously it depends what team you play with. If you play with, you know, if we just have a look, a quick browse of the teams, like if you were to use this with, like, I don't know, a even like a Leicester or a West Ham or a Chelsea, anyone where you can honestly say on paper they've got a better team, possibly a bit more transfer budget, and you can bring your own players in, I would probably say you could get away with staying on positive. I just wanted to make that clear in the video so no one wonders, like, what's going on. I'm conceding goals early on. You do have to tweak it for depending on what sort of your opposition, because that's the other thing. If you're playing in the Premier League and you end up, say, you know, I was playing Burnley in this save, for example, I would go in positive because they're low on confidence. They're not a good team in this game, in this current save. So why not go positive? It's all about tweaking it as you play. And I see comments from all over, even on my channel, but loads of YouTube channels where they make tactics and people are complaining about the tactic, saying they played a whole season, but you never hear them say about how they didn't tweak it and things like that. You can't just download a tactic and think it's going to magically win you every trophy. You also have to tweak it a little bit. Downloading the tactic, in my opinion, is pretty much downloading a formula, downloading like a base, and then you build on it. You know, you have to bring in your own players, obviously. You can tweak it as you go. I've had loads of people, for example, the Ten Hag tactic, tweak about with the midfield players, change the roles. It's all about what works for the team you've got. No save is the same. But let's get into the last tactic test, which is going to be a bit of a different one with Fenerbahçe. Before we do get into that though, guys, if you are enjoying this tactic so far, please do leave a like on the video. It really does help the video get found. It helps the channel grow, and the channel is doing very well at the moment. And if you are enjoying these videos, also do subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. There's loads more content coming out on this Football Manager, and then when Football Manager 23 drops, there's going to be absolutely loads. Live streams will be coming back as well when that game drops. But let's see how we done in the Turkish League. And this is how we done in the Turkish League. I've never actually done a tactic test in the Turkish League, so I thought, you know what, why not? We'll switch it up. We always, you know, go with the same league, so I thought, let's just test it and see what it's about. We actually managed to win, yeah, it would be the league, which we won, obviously, and also it is going to be the cup, I believe, which I'm not even going to try and say because I don't want to offend anyone. So we managed to win the cup and also win the league. 107 goals scored, only 26 conceded as well. 50 goals scored for Joshua King, which is absolutely remarkable, to be honest. I actually wasn't aware he was here, but obviously with the up-to-date database, luckily it does all the transfers for you. Shout out to Sort It Out SI for that, because that makes the game 10 times more enjoyable. In terms of the actual squad then, it's going to be quite clear as day. We've got 50 goals coming in from Joshua King. João Pedro, again, the former Watford man. That, if I'm right, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe these two are actually both former Watford players. 14 goals coming from Lincoln. In terms of assists, we've got 29 for Lincoln. Kveki there with 19 assists, 12 for Samuel. And this, I did expect quite a few more goals in this division, because no disrespect, but there are a few teams as you go down that aren't as good of players, as good of sides. So there were quite a lot of thumpings in terms of results in this, and I'm sure this will reflect it in the attacking. Yeah, so we're getting on for pretty much 3 goals a game. So 2.8 goals a game to be exact. Shots on target sitting at 50%. Pass completion nearly getting on for 93%. So that is very impressive. Again, when you play in a harder league, that will probably drop because obviously the standards just naturally are higher. Whereas in this league, when you're on the ball, with this tactic especially, you can dominate pretty much whoever. In terms of defending, very impressive. 0.6, 0.7 we'll say, conceded a game. So over 3, under a goal conceded. You can't really go wrong with that. The tackle win ratio was a little bit lower in this one, which I'm not sure why, but still anything above 75% is reasonably clean, especially by my standards anyway. But clearances per game, again, has always remained quite high. So I will say that this tactic is pretty much I'd say it's the perfect tactic to use for a balanced game style. That's the word I'm looking for, like a balanced game style, because it's not all and out attack. So in this league you will, but in the Premier League, unless you are like an elite side, you won't go and score 3 or 4 goals a game, but you will be comfortable in getting like 1-0 wins, 1 goal wins, 2 goal wins here and there. And we actually got some very good results. I've got to show you, but in the actual Brighton save, the reason we were able to even get in that top 6 position was because we done quite well against the big sides, not necessarily winning, but I know against Liverpool and City we actually had like a 3-3 draw, and we had a 1-1 draw against Liverpool. So it does do very well against the big sides as well, which is a very big part when you're not actually managing a top team. But let's pick a game from this save, and we're going to go into some in-game 2D analysis, see how it lines up, and talk a little bit about it. So I've picked out a game here against Adana DS in what was a 6-0 win in what would be the league, I believe that is. Now, I want to show you this from kickoff because we always like to talk about how the tactic actually lines up. Now, one thing Graham Potter is very famous for is switching between obviously the 3-5-2. He can distribute a 3-4-3, a 3-4-2-1, and it's great to do that. And one thing I will say now is there is a YouTuber called FM22, or Trek, I think it's Trek. I speak to him quite a bit. He's a really nice guy, and he actually has a video of going over every single variation of it. I wanted to focus purely on the 3-5-2 because it's my most favorite one out of the 3, but if you want to see how all of them work, I would recommend checking that out. But as you can see here then, so you've got your 3 at the back, as you can see here, and then these fullbacks are actually quite pushed forward a little bit, and they typically are in most 3 at the back sides. And then you are going to have your midfield play, or it's actually Joshua King dropping a little bit deeper there, but you are going to have obviously, you know, your 5, I would say 5 in midfield, because people always get confused because a lot of people, when I upload on TikTok, they say, oh no, that's actually a 5 at the back, but the midfielders and also the fullbacks are the 5. It's like, you know, if you imagine like a fullback, midfielder, fullback, that's the 5, like that. So it is a 3-5-2 formation, not to be confused with a 5 at the back. But no, as you can see, so this is pretty much how it sort of lines up right from the rip. And what we'll see is these fullbacks are quite attacking. They're not instructed on attack, just to clarify. They are actually on automatic, which means they will go forward, they will come back. And again, this is something that you guys can tweak if you feel like your fullbacks aren't getting involved enough and you're not scoring enough goals. Especially if you're playing with a top team, if you use this tactic with a top team, push your fullbacks onto attack, because chances are if you're a top team, your defense is going to be better, your midfield players are going to be great. So definitely I would advise doing that. If we go into some of the key highlights then, let's have a little look. So there is a little bit of pressing in this system as well. Not loads, the tempo is actually quite low, but we do get quite stuck in when needed to do so. So we've got the ball here then. As I said, the pass and play is going to be nice because it is on shorter and it is how he plays in real life. Brighton have never been a team. I feel like they play some of the best football to watch, but they never really get any credit for it, which isn't fair on them really. But the play here, again, a little bit of whip fuse there. Going on to the right-hand side, is he going to get it in? He does get a ball in into King. It's a good clearance, but no one to get it back for them. We've got Salzai into Ferdy there with the ball. Cuts it back into Lincoln, into Araujo, or Rau, I think that's how you say that. Nearly said the Barcelona name. Into Pedro, who cuts it across and sticks it in the bottom left corner. So having them two players up top, they've basically got one player a little bit further up than the other strikers. So we've got one striker, which is going to be the advanced forward, and then we've got a slightly deeper one. Both strikers will score goals, but obviously the one that's pushed up further is going to be the sort of the selfish striker, which I think every system needs at the end of the day. Is this going to be a free kick? Not much to talk about here then, because it's just going to be a free kick. And there's not too much we can really say on that, apart from a great set piece, I guess. But no, with this tactic, like I said, it is a I would say it's probably one of the best balanced tactics out there. In terms of, like, I'm not purely saying mine is, but Graham Potter as a general sort of manager, it is probably one of the most balanced sort of tactics you can get, because it never leaves you too vulnerable at the back, but you also do have the opportunity to score loads of goals. So I mean, well, I say loads of goals, against the smaller sides you do. But let's get into what is going to be the next goal. Hopefully, is it? Or is it going to be another little corner they've got here? It is going to be a penalty. I didn't really want to have one with a penalty, but we'll watch the penalty anyway. It's going to be João Pedro into the bottom right corner. This guy, honestly, was on fire as well. I mean, two Watford lads linking up, I guess. I mean, fair play to them. Let's actually change this to goals, because we want to go over some of the goals. We've seen a few of these, so we'll skip through them. So we want to go to will be the fourth goal that goes in. So we've seen the set pieces. Right, let's slow this down then. Right, here we go then. So we're going to see a goal. Hopefully we can see some of this pass and play. So here we go. Midfielders linking up very well there. Runs in behind all over. Look at that little 1-2 into there. Into Valencia, who tucks it into the bottom right corner. That is why also then the midfielders, we do have one midfielder, which is a centre mid on the attack role. That basically, that guy is going to be obviously more of the attack and midfield player. And he does bomb up the pitch. He's told to get up. He's told to stay a little bit wider, because that way he does link in with the most sort of further up striker, if that makes sense. And also he's close to the fullback. So them little 1-2 classes that we just saw, that is where they come from. It's exactly where they come from. So is this going to be a set piece? No, that's good. So it's a good clearance from them. He picks it up on the edge. Does he hit that? I was not expecting him to hit that. Fair play to him. That is one hell of a goal. Pick up the ball there in midfield, then into Valencia. Again, the two strikers linking into Joshua King, who looks like he's done a little bit of a skill move there to hold it up, and then puts it into the bottom left corner in a game which we absolutely dominated. Obviously, a lot more of the ball. One thing I haven't really talked about, possession is something that you probably will have quite a bit of. Obviously, if you play Man City, you probably won't, but against a team like this, the way you hold the ball is second to none. It's like watching a Man City team. Loads of shots on target, good XG as well, and overall just a very, very dominant game. But let's get into the actual tactic now, where we're going to break down, not only that, but also the player roles, and hopefully I can explain a little bit more in depth about how these midfield players sort of link in. So then, this is going to be a little bit of a tactic breakdown, and we're going to talk about exactly how this sort of, how or why these midfield players are the certain roles that they are, and we're going to talk about it. But we'll do this bit first. So, like I said, positive mentality. This is probably the one thing that you guys want to tweak as you go along with. In possession, attacking width is set to wide. Obviously, overlap left and right is crucial, because your fullbacks will then overlap. And if you don't have that on, I would say it would be a big mistake. I really do value the overlap left and right, because You don't have it on, you don't see them get as involved as much, and obviously when they overlap, it also gives you a little bit of width, because you've got to remember this formation is actually quite narrow. Without the fullbacks, they'd all be sort of narrow. So I mean, definitely have that on. In terms of pass and directness, you want it on shorter, tempo set to lower. Again, I did test this on standard, but the results didn't follow it, so definitely go with lower on that one. Mixed crosses, traditionally, and this is the only thing that I've done different, which I would say is not the style of Graham Potter. This, if I was to describe him, he does sort of look for the perfect chance. That would be on. But on Football Manager, I just don't like it. I don't like it on the game. I feel like you overcomplicate things. You don't get enough shots on target. But again, that is something that is your decision. If you want to put it on, feel free to do so. And be more expressive, just because Brighton are quite an attacking side at the end of the day. In transition then, we have got counter press selected. They're not really a counter attacking team, and they're not really a team that holds their shape to the point where they just drop back and, you know, or just, you know, are so resilient to the point where they don't really have any ability to be expressive. So nothing selected to that one. Nothing selected for this one either. Distribute to the centre backs, because again, Brighton do play out from the back. And the reason why it's not on fullbacks is because they are pushed up a little bit more. So I'd rather get played to the centre-backs, one, because we've got 3 of them, so there's 3 options instantly, and 2, the fullbacks, they're slightly further up, as I mentioned, and the pass is harder. Out of possession, we have got a higher defensive line. They're very well known for doing that, and a higher line of engagement. Again, this can be tweaked, but for me, this is the perfect setup for this, and the trigger press is on much more often. But going into what is going to be the actual player roles, and this is what we want to be looking out for. So before we do that though, we are going to talk a little bit about how this actually works. So the midfield players now traditionally always have a box to box. Obviously at one point this would have been a Basuma, but obviously he's now gone. In this position here, you can have a deep line playmaker, but I personally preferred having the ball winning midfielder, because obviously it depends what team you've got. Again, this is so team dependent, because if you had a real good team, I would probably have a deep line playmaker, possibly even on support, because we weren't even that vulnerable. But if you're playing with a mid-table side and you don't want to be too exposed, ball-winning midfielder, in my opinion, is the best one to have, alongside of a box-to-box and also a centre mid on the attack. Or again, you could rock with a Metzala, completely your choice. But sweeper keeper, we've got a support on this one. Again, it's not going to come out and attack and get too dangerous, you know, make too many errors. So support is something I do recommend on that. In terms of the centre backs, again, I like to have wide centre backs in a back 3. Even though we've got full backs, I just like the centre backs to be wide, because then it makes that pass and play a lot easier. And that is where you see, obviously, these sort of 3 players. I don't know why I'm pointing. Like, you got your box to box, your wing back, and your wide centre back. They create them sort of almost like triangles in a weird sort of way. So that's why I like to have the wide centre backs. The right one is going to be on the defend duty, and he is going to be told balanced on the press, stay wider, shorter passing, and take fewer risks. Going into the centre, I always like to have one ball playing defender, and I would say Brighton do as well. So I'm going to go with a balanced trigger press, shorter passing, and dribble more on the central defender. Wide centre back, he's actually on the support, so he's got a little bit more freedom. Not too much though, because he does get told to take fewer risks. Again, we don't really need to have the defenders bombing up the pitch, because we didn't, although I sit here and I say we didn't score like loads and loads of goals, the whole point of this system isn't to overcommit, but also be able to score, but not, you know, throw everyone up there, and balanced on the trigger press as well. Going over to the fullbacks, they're going to be exactly the same shots, so I'm going to show you one. They're going to be on the wing back on automatic, meaning they basically do a little bit of both. They do get further forward, as you can see here. Stay wider, because as I did say, there isn't a lot of width. Although the attacking width is a little bit wider, you do want your fullbacks to be wide, because they don't need to be narrow. And also, when they stay wide, it always gives you an option to play it out wide and go up the pitch. So balanced on the trigger press, stay wider, get further forward, run wide with the ball, and shorter passing. Moving on to the 3 in midfield, then we're going to have the box-to-box midfielder on the support role. He is going to be told balanced on the trigger press, mark tighter. Again, this is probably, like with most tactics, the midfield is the most important part of the pitch. If you win the ball back here, you've got a real good chance of actually going to score a goal, especially in this system, because chances are in that area of the pitch, the fullbacks have already started to overlap, meaning that if you win the ball back, you can send one of them out wide. You've also got your 2 up top. It's a real important area of the pitch. Going into the ball-winning midfield player who is sort of the glue. If anyone does get caught out, he'll always be there. We want him on balance, trigger press, and shorter passing. Everything else is pre-selected from putting him on defend as the duty. Going over to the centre mid on the attack, you need one of your midfielders who is going to be attacking, because otherwise there's going to be no creativity at all. So you need one of them. Again, you could rock with a Metzala, but I personally prefer a central midfielder on attack. But that's just me personally. Trigger press is going to be on balance, stay wider, get further forward selected, roam from position, run wide with the ball, shorter passing, and dribble more. This guy is pretty much given the license to do pretty much what he wants, because I always like to have one midfield player, and you see it with Brighton as well. They always have one midfield player, sort of like a McAllister, who does get, you know, probably more involved in the attacking side of the game. He does also defend, but you need one midfield player in any system that is a little bit more attacker minded than the rest. Going over then to the main two up front, we've got a pressing forward who's on support, more often on the press, again, because he's a pressing forward, hence why he's going to press, shorter passing and hold up the ball. And then this is going to be the most selfish player of the team, is going to be the advanced forward on attack, and that is going to be balanced on the press, shorter passing, dribble more, shoot more, and take more risks, because this guy is the goal scorer. This is where you saw your 50 goals, your 60 goals, and was it the 30 goals I believe we scored. He is by far the most selfish player, but don't feel like that means that this guy's not going to get anything going, because this guy can score goals as well, but this is the main man you're looking for. The advanced forward is going to be the key man in the team. But like I said, this tactic was very fun, quite hard to make. Probably, I would say, my hardest one I've ever made is the Conte one. Then this would be the second hardest I've ever made. I played about simmed about 7 seasons. I'm tweaking things. I tried testing it on attacking. It didn't work right off the bat, so I switched it to positive. That's why I don't want to make that clear. Make sure you do tweak this, you know, in between, because it does need tweaking against different sides. But if you guys do want to test this tactic out, then the link is going to be in the description. All you need to do is download it. Click on this bit here, go to load, locate it in your computer files, and it will translate everything. It will do set pieces, it will do all of this, it will do the player roles, and everything for you. It saves a lot of time copying it. I know a lot of you guys, or a few of you guys, do play on Xbox, I believe, or mobile, where I'm not sure if you can do that. So that is where I do literally go over everything click for click, because then you can copy it if you have to. But yeah, that is going to be it for today, guys. I hope you guys have enjoyed this Potter sort of tactic. If you have, please do leave a like on the video. Be sure to comment on what manager you want to see next, and please do subscribe. But that is going to be it for today, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.